Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Safety Committee operating budget discussion for FY23. We have six topics on the agenda this morning. We have the sheriff, we have circuit court, state's attorney, corrections and rehabilitation, and then prisoner medical services, and also under capital improvements program, the Criminal Justice Complex, Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We're going to start. It's my understanding Judge Bonifant is going to be here this morning, but he has a very tight schedule like everybody else. We're going to start with the sheriff, and then we'll skip circuit court if the judge is not here. We'll go back to the circuit court. Excuse me, when the judge does get here. So. It's our goal, and the council president, Gabe Albernaz, is sorry that he cannot be here today. So it is Councilmember Hucker and myself that will, if hopefully we can agree on some topics. So anyway, it'll be tough on Hucker, but anyway. So anyhow, and with that, welcome Sheriff and Chief Deputy Max Wee and everyone else here for the first topic. Do you have any opening thoughts? Thank you. Sheriff, did you have any opening comments, please?
Chairman Katz, immediate past President Hucker, and President Albernaz in absentia. If I could just take a moment, after 25 years of reporting and testifying in front of this Public Safety Committee. First time in here, though, so like they've really stepped up your accommodations.
Well, they knew you'd be here. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
After 25 years and close to 40 years at the Sheriff's Office, this will probably be my last time for the Sheriff's Office budget in front of this committee. As you know, I am retiring on December the 1st. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Katz, Mr. Hucker, for all the years of support to the Sheriff's Office. It is a partnership between, the council, the sheriff, public safety, as well as the executive to make sure that, the residents of this county remain safe. And really over the years, allowing the Sheriff's Office and all the things that we do as functions to really excel. So I can't thank you enough. I wish you both well in your future endeavors. I hope to come back and see you sitting here in a different capacity, perhaps. But I just want to thank you for everything you all have done and the support that you've given for the Sheriff's Office and public safety in general throughout, my career, as well as, a lot of years for both of you as well. And I knew Tom when he was a delegate in Annapolis, so thank you both.
Thank you. And Sheriff, and on behalf of the people of Montgomery County, thank you for all of your service. See, I've gotten to know you over the years. I'm very, very proud of the fact that we are personal friends. And I know that you have done so much, not just for Montgomery County, but for the state of Maryland. I know that in your activities for the various committees and times that you've spent in Annapolis, probably some of them have been enjoyable. Some of them have been also that you had to be in Annapolis working on various things, and we do appreciate it. So did you have any?
Sure. Since we're Darren, thank you so much for all your years of service and all your friendship. You've been an incredibly positive partner. I was fortunate enough to know you when I was in Annapolis, but I'm really grateful to be able to serve with you and see you much more frequently in this role. And 8 years on the Public Safety Committee, I've really appreciated the just so much good that your office does for the residents of Montgomery County, and so much that people never see. People think of I think the sheriff in a very traditional role, and they don't see everything you do for families and for domestic abuse victims and so many others that I don't think you don't get enough credit for. But you've been a great partner, and I really wish you all the best in the future as well.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Thank you, Sidney.
Thank you. Ms. Frog has done all of the packets today, so we want to thank her every time, but especially in the very beginning for all of her hard work. And as always, she has given us great information that we need to be considering. With that, Ms. Frog, if you would like to lead us through the budget summary and the other information, please.
Sure. Good morning. The first item up is the sheriff. We do have 6 items, as you stated earlier, which is great that they're actually held today because a few of them overlap today. And they all have a very similar theme, which is emerging. I won't say it's post-COVID, but emerging or transitioning out of the depths of COVID and social distancing and the way that impacted operations for all the agencies before you today. So for the Sheriff's Department, the county executives recommended a budget of almost $27 million. That's an increase of about 1.8% over last year's approved budget. I'm just going to go through the items. There are not that many changes, but I do have a couple of issues to bring to your attention. Again, this is reflecting some changes put in place due to COVID impacts. The first item up they have is restoring a lapsed PAA, Principal Administrative Aid, to support tenant eviction services. The Sheriff's Civil Section has always worked with HHS to help tenants resolve eviction notices, and the Sheriff is advising that the issues have become more complicated because of COVID and the changes in the law. They're now working with the county executive to provide information to HHS about residents who are being evicted due to these COVID-related issues, and this has implemented more work for the Sheriff's Office. They're currently providing relevant information to HHS, and HHS then reaches out to those residents with information that might help avert an eviction. This new position would help the deputies, relieve the deputies of administrative duties, such as answering calls from landlords and tenants who call during the day to check on eviction statuses. Right now, the deputies are returning landlord and tenant calls in the morning when they first arrive at work and then later in the afternoon when they're done with their regular daily duties. Because of this narrow calling window, they are often not able to reach the callers, and it causes more delays and more calls. So currently they have a deputy on light duty who's answering calls during the day, but that light duty assignment is not going to last much longer. So having this administrative aid position answer calls, relay important information, would make the process more efficient and allow better communication between Sheriff's Office and the landlord and tenants. Additionally, there are additional administrative duties that the position needs to undertake because of Maryland House Bill 180, which is developing a pamphlet for the Sheriff's Office to distribute along with the landlord-tenant notices.
Well, I certainly am supportive of it, and I thank you for bringing the idea forward. You know, when someone is experiencing these types of issues, we all see that the tenant that the sheriff or whoever has had to put the tenant out of that residence, but it's also the landlord that we have to be concerned about as well. And listen, I've known many a landlord in my life, and all of them want a tenant to be happy, and they want their tenant to pay the rent, and they don't necessarily want evictions. In fact, they don't want evictions. What they want is the tenant to be happy and the tenant to pay the rent. So, Sheriff, I know you wanted to say something about this.
Yes, sir, Mr. Katz. So, as you know, during COVID, one of the greatest concerns were, especially for the number of people who were out of work, was the concern and the kind of commonality word used was tsunami of evictions. You know, I work with Mr. Hucker and his staff quite a bit on a number of eviction type of issues throughout COVID. There are thousands of cases that are lagging behind in the district court. So because of the federal dollars and some of the amazing work that the county council did to fund some of the emergency programs during evictions, the Sheriff's Office has been working very close with Health and Human Services, providing internal data that if it was not for the data that was provided by the Sheriff's Office to HHS, it has stopped hundreds of evictions from occurring because the federal dollars can then go out to where it is. What was occurring is that the potential for someone to apply for these emergency funding was not catching up with when the evictions were scheduled, and the worst thing we would ever have is that the executive gets to an application 2 days after they've been evicted. So with that being said, we are still not seeing the level of that is likely to move forward with evictions. You know, my favorite number when it comes to evictions, and I've testified in front of you many, many times, is zero. and we will not get to that. But with this position, that I will have somebody in the office the entire day, is incredibly important to maintain the proactive measures, not just really the answering the phones. That's just a minor part of this. But what I wanted to say was when this position has been lapsed for a number of years, and we asked the executive to fund it as a full-time position, because to maintain these programs, these proactive programs, and also working directly with the courts as well as working with the Health and Human Services to try to prevent many of these evictions, the executive, I appreciate it, only funded it as a part-time position. Now, I had asked for a full-time position because that's what really this position demands. From efficiency purposes, to go from this part-time position that the executive has been willing to fund to full-time for efficiency is less than $16,000.
Oh my.
So from the perspective of trying to fund this to where it really can make a difference and actually prevent evictions, we are providing millions and millions of dollars to people to try to prevent and be proactive preventing evictions. It just does not make sense to me to alleviate something for less than $16,000.
Absolutely agree with you. And the $16,000 changes someone's life. I mean,
Yes.
really. Now, are we? When you said that, I read obviously the budget, the packet. But are you suggesting, Ms. Farag, that this remain a part-time or full-time?
Due to the fact that we have budget constraints right now that we're facing, and we're trying to make sure that it's a balanced budget moving forward into FY24, I'm not recommending any changes. You're free to vote to put this on the reconciliation list, though.
I have
Absolutely.
a feeling that we might, yeah. Are you okay with saying full-time?
I'm happy to put it on the rec list. I'm happy to just fund it. I mean, it's $16,000. Can I just get back to you, Sheriff? I think I missed something. How do you go from a part-time person to a full-time person? Why is the delta so little for 16?
Because the majority, right now the position is not funded. It's been lapsed for a number of years. So to put it back into the category of a part-time position, much of that funding goes to all the health benefits, the retirement, all of the stuff that really is the front load is the more expensive part. Going from the part-time to the full-time based on the position and the level of the position is just another less than $16,000.
You're good.
I'd be happy to just
Ms.
fund it.
Frog, please make a note, and we will push for that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I have a feeling, candidly, at full council, all of my colleagues will understand the importance of that as well.
Understand.
And then just if I might, I'll work with council staff to actually generate an actual recommended proposal for.
Thank you.
when
Thank
we
you.
take
Yeah,
to
we'll
move
need
that.
Yeah,
to full.
thank you.
Did you say rec list or funding it?
Is it on rec list or?
Yes, everything's going on the reconciliation list.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but wanted to double check. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Farag?
Sure. The next item is for veterinary treatment of retired canines for $10,000. That's another Senate bill, State Senate Bill 186 of last year, that's requiring them to provide this retired canine care. It's not expected to exceed $2,500 during a regular calendar year or $10,000 for the life of a dog. Other expenses such as food are not covered. The Sheriff's Office currently has 2 retired canines and anticipates 3 more to retire within the next year.
Okay.
The next item is restoration of pre-COVID costs to the security budget for about $130,000. That expenditure reflects the return to pre-COVID court operations and the need to add additional funding to the security contract. They also have a deputy sheriff to backfill a McGeo reassignment for $105,000. That expenditure reflects the transfer of a deputy from the sheriff's office to the union under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, and the county executive and sheriff agreed that the vacant position would be backfilled to support the full staffing level that the sheriff's office needs. The next piece is $35,000 just for 6% inflationary increase for nonprofit service providers, and there's a list of those on pages 3 and 4. Replacement of ballistic vests. There's a replacement schedule for these vests, and they have a 5-year expiration date. The vests are custom made in each year. The number of to replace changes due to the separation in service for retirements and other types of separations. There are at least 17 replacement vests scheduled to be purchased in FY23.
And when we're saying that they're custom made, they're not, are they custom made to the person or custom made for air specifications?
To the person.
To the person. So during the year, if someone retires and you hire someone new, you have to have the expense of that vest, is that?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Certainly needed, but I didn't realize it was to that degree. Please, Ms. Frog.
For recruiting, the Sheriff's Office does have 10 recruits budgeted for FY23, but they're also having the same recruiting and hiring challenges as the police department is. Before 2020, they were able to place at least 5 in a class. They had, over the past couple of years, they had 4 classes that graduated 3, 2, 3, and 0. They did receive 1 transfer from another law enforcement agency for a total of 9 hired over the past 2 years. They assume they're losing 2 more deputies by the end of June and another at the end of August. They're currently down 7 deputy positions, which will become 10 by the end of August. The office does have 4 in the academy now and hope that all will graduate this class. But it is something to keep an eye on as we move forward to see how their recruiting experience goes over the next year.
And we agree with that, and we're doing our best to help out with how we can help out. But I think if we could make a note that we, in general, and invite the sheriffs to be here as well when we talk about recruiting and retention.
The Family Justice Center update, as you know, domestic violence during COVID increased not only in the number of cases, but also in the extreme severity of the types of domestic violence that they were seeing. They have several new initiatives that are in place, including a Family Justice Center Training Institute and virtual forensic medical consultation. The Training Institute provides trainings free of charge to organizations, agencies, and the public on a variety of topics related to domestic violence and teen dating violence. The forensic piece is a partnership with Shady Grove Medical Center, in which the center's clients have been physically or sexually abused can contact directly with a forensic nurse to discuss their options, their available medical services and interventions, and make in-person appointments at the hospital for further care. For tasers, last year, if you'll recall, the council added sufficient funding, approximately $17,800 for the sheriff to purchase new tasers in FY22. They purchased tasers under the same contract as the county police with Axon, and these tasers must be replaced every 5 years. Additionally, the sheriff would like to ensure that all deputies are trained and certified to carry tasers, and they have, actually, I think that number's gone up to 70, I believe, certified deputies, and they train about 15 deputies per year. What has changed here is that the police department has transitioned to a new taser, Axon 7, and the sheriff's department has to use that taser to be trained for their deputy who's in their recruit that's in the class they have to have that same equipment to train on. So, and if they're getting trained on that, what is the overlap? And this is something maybe the sheriff can highlight a little bit better or explain a little bit better. How does that training play out when they've already been trained on one version and now they have to update to the new version, but they don't have the new version within the sheriff's office?
So, as you know, all of the sheriff's deputies go through the Montgomery County Police Academy and are trained law enforcement and certified through the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. And as one of the objectives at the Police Academy is the training of the use of tasers, because the county police are now, that's part of your regular issued equipment. So that is certainly where we would like to be at the sheriff's office. I have had conversations with President of McGeo, Mr. Wren, as well, that is where we are working towards. We've been adding 15 tasers per year. We have a number of people who would still like to get that. We're not quite where we want to be. The complication now comes up is where the Montgomery County Police have traded all of their prior issued tasers in to Axon to purchase the new taser. So our deputies that are going through the academy now, you can't really transition backwards. So we're having to purchase the newer tasers to supply the deputies who are going through the police academy right now. It's just a little bit of a complication. I would ultimately like to do what the county police would do have a separate contract. We're working towards it, but it's a little complicated right now. And the $17,000 that we're receiving per year was sufficient for approximately 15 tasers, to try to purchase 15 tasers a year. But the cost of the new taser is significantly more expensive than the prior one, but the county police got a good deal on it because they traded in, kind of like when you trade in your used cars, Mr. Katz.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
All right, so how much, first off, since you are going through the academy, I would think that everybody should be getting the same tasers, and it should be and I understand it's a separate contract, but I would think that when the county police trade in their tasers, the sheriff should trade in his tasers at the same time. How much money are we talking about to have that happen?
Well, I'm just absorbing it, that of whatever we have to do to make sure that our recruits in the academy receive the same training and receive the same equipment. It's the existing deputies that we are, like the vests, this equipment has expiration dates on it as well. And the taser, Axon, warranties the equipment, but then that has expiration dates on it, and then at some point you have to buy new ones and then transition to the new. So we are, within the next 3 years, we'll have to transition everyone out because Taser's not going to support the old equipment any longer.
Well, I think we should look at how much it's going to cost for the existing Tasers and to transition as quickly as we can, not over the 3-year period.
Yeah, I agree.
But as quickly as we can. So I don't know that we know that number, but could we find that out, and when we go to full council, if you're okay?
I can work with Mr. Morris,
Excuse me?
I can work with OMB to figure those numbers out for you.
We're giving you plenty to do today. I know you appreciate us on a Monday.
And then I would also just point out, if you may recall, when we had the police department for their work session, MCPD is exploring more of a lease sort of agreement for their tasers, so that the transition from one model to the next is a little more seamless and cost efficient. So obviously we can explore that for sure.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you, and you're okay with that. So we're good with that, Ms. Frog.
Okay, great. The next item is just something that's come up in prior conversations that I've had with the sheriff's office. The South Tower Wi-Fi. Some of the deputy sheriffs maintain office space in the South Tower at the terrace level. And it's my understanding that at this level, the building has never had Wi-Fi, and this can impair the deputy's ability to conduct some basic work operations. And it brought it to my attention because in the circuit court budget, they're replacing and upgrading a lot of their courtroom AV equipment in the South Tower as well. So I didn't know if this is something that the committee may wish to ask more about now, or something we can follow up moving into the fiscal year coming back in the fall, really just to understand what their technology needs are in that office and trying to get a price through TEBS or something to that effect.
I absolutely agree. First of all, I'm sorry that they don't have it now. I think that's, I mean, the county owns that building. You're okay with that too?
So a follow-up on that?
You're going to hit me if you don't agree. Right now. You'll let me know. Okay, please.
Okay. The next item is, it also impacts the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, if any of them would like to sit at the table too, and it's prisoner transports. And this just came to my attention about a week ago. The new state's use of force statute, Senate Bill 71, Chapter 60 of 2021, may create some operational changes for the county that are going to significantly impact how both the Department of Corrections and the Sheriff's Office conduct business, basically. The Sheriff's Office is primarily responsible for prisoner transports. That's to court. Those are for medical transports, and those are transports between MCDC down in Rockville up to MCCF up in Boyd's. They have, specified shifts that they work, and they don't have some overnight abilities. The Sheriff's Office doesn't. And the police department has been filling in. They've been running people that have degraded, I guess, either in physical condition or mental health condition at MCDC, and they really can't be stabilized at MCDC in Rockville. So they can be stabilized, however, up at MCCF. So for those inmates, either the sheriff would drive them up during daytime hours, or the MCPD would do it overnight, and overnight on weekends as well. Their MCPD is no longer going to do this. I've heard the date of July 1st when they're going to stop doing this. The new state use of force law has criminal liability implications. And so my understanding, and I don't want to speak for the police department, but it was my understanding, since this is not something they are required to do, they do not want to jeopardize their officers' risk of criminal liability in a use of force situation. So there's been a lot of talk on the executive branch side between corrections, the sheriff, Dr. Earl Stoddard has been involved in this, and the corrections has already made some changes to MCDC. They've done some additional modifications, are in the process of doing these to better stabilize some of these inmates who are declining, but they can't do all, right? So they're working together, and I needed to put it on your radar. They're working together collaboratively to come up with a solution. I have concerns, the sheriffs do it, but to add shifts to do this overnight, the sheriff's office indicates it would take 10 deputy sheriffs as well as some management positions to do this. And as you know, they're having recruiting and retention difficulties just like the police are, and it takes 18 months to get somebody up and running, right? So that's not necessarily a short-term or an immediate type of solution to hire sheriff's office deputies. But they might, the stakeholders might want to give a little bit more of an update or round out my description, which is not 100% accurate, I'm sure. So.
Well, I have a feeling it's pretty good, Ms. Farag. You always come in with the right answers. Welcome, Director Talley, and if you would like to jump in and tell us what's a good solution for this, or a solution for that. I don't know that we have a good solution.
Well, good morning. I wish we did have a good solution. There aren't any good solutions to this. We are bringing people into custody every single day who come in there with significant mental health issues and some who have medical issues. And our services to be able to manage and stabilize those individuals, as was stated, is at our main facility in Clarksburg. They have been assessed either by a nurse, a therapist, or their behavior dictates that they would need to be housed in a better environment for their observation and their own personal safety. We all know that MCDC is a deteriorating facility, and it would take significant changes to be able to add a crisis intervention unit to the MCDC 7 Locks location. We would have to add medical housing, which we currently do not have at the MCDC location, and as well as those staffing, nurses, therapists, correctional officers, other expenditures to be able to actually have 2 separate areas, one at each facility, Clarksburg and Rockville, to be able to handle those type of inmates that we receive from the community. We are struggling ourselves with staffing, similar to our public safety agencies. Nursing in particular, we are very short-staffed with nursing and cannot even, seem to attract and recruit nursing staff. And so we have concerns of keeping individuals who have been identified who need these extra levels of service care at a location. We have completed some cell modifications. These cells aren't ready to go, but we've made some cell modifications to be able to house low acuity cases. We thank the sheriffs who have modified their hours to extend them in the evenings at 12 midnight and start early in the morning to be able to help us with our transports early in the morning. But there is a major concern on the weekends, a major concern when this becomes an effect on how we are able to maintain these individuals at our 7 Locks locations, because we will be liable for them. And so the risk and the liability switches over to us. I wish we had an answer to this, but we do not. We're actively working with all parties to be able to find what is the best solution. But we are fastly approaching July 1st, 60 days. Anything I'm missing, Warden?
And welcome, Warden, as well. I should have welcomed you as well.
Yes.
So July 1st is going to happen, in a blink of an eye here. Sheriff, is there anything we can do to help out on this?
So Senate Bill 71, which passed last year's session, 2021 session, that covered the new use of force standard in Maryland. that goes into effect July 1. From a law enforcement perspective, it changes the Supreme Court standard and makes it a new standard in Maryland that the Attorney General has weighed in on with about a 38-page Attorney General opinion. That 38-page opinion is very difficult to understand, but it basically redirects a lot of the use of force standard and ultimately says that the courts are going to have to make up some determination of this. There is some differing opinion on exactly what the use of force is going to look like. I do not want to speak for the police department. I would recommend that Chief Jones and Dr. Stoddard and myself and Angela have an opportunity to have a further conversation with this committee to get into more of the nuts and bolts. There's a lot of history associated with how things have come about from many, many years ago at the detention center. I want to say, certainly as a resident of this county, my entire life resident of this county, I would never want to shoot myself in the foot, and I've always done everything that this council has ever asked me to do. But the consideration of hiring 10 deputies if you look at the numbers of people that are transported during these off hours, non-business hours, it's averaging somewhere between 5 and 10 a month. So of these emergency, because we've already adjusted our schedule and we're taking the majority of them, many, close to potentially 100 a month, but during our regular course of business. So, but if you look at the hours that Angela is referring to, it's never going to be 0, but you're looking at maybe somewhere between 5 and 10. So you're looking at 1 to 2 transports a week of spending over $1 million to hire 10 deputies of an ongoing expense moving forward for when you're hiring just you're transporting a few people a week. Now, I could certainly have them backfilling and doing other duties and responsibilities and stuff, but that's not, I always have felt that, it's my responsibility to do things that are in the best interest of the taxpayers of this county. So, as Angela mentioned, there are not a lot of good solutions. The transportation of inmates is a responsibility of the sheriff, and we certainly, I would do anything that the council decides to do on this matter, but the complications of hiring 10 people, including supervision, to maybe have to do an assignment once or twice a week just does not make sense to me.
So I guess what we need to find a solution to this. Obviously, we're not going to find it this morning, but if possible, if we could have everyone in the words of Ike Leggett, at the large table, the police, the sheriff, the corrections, everyone that is associated with this, HHS, and if we could do that sooner rather than later. even I would think we would do it during budget times if we can find the time.
So are you asking that to come back before the committee or full council?
I think if we could come back before the committee, if the timing worked,
Right.
that would be fine. I have a feeling the timing might not work, and so therefore we're going to have to bring full council. But it's going to be a conversation at full council. It's going to take longer than 10 minutes.
Okay.
So anyhow, but we've got to find a solution. So are you okay with that?
Yeah. Quick question.
Sure, please.
Yeah, this is vexing. Sheriff, were your transports affected by our new county use of force legislation a couple years ago, or just the state?
It is the transports are not affected by this new state law whatsoever. This for the sheriffs. The new state law, use of force state law under Senate Bill 71, is a new standard in Maryland. So the objectively reasonable standard is now going to what is necessary and proportional. That's the new standard in Maryland. That will be determined exactly what that means by the courts in the future. Doesn't affect it affects every law enforcement officer in the state that will need to be trained by it as far as what the new standard is. but that's in every aspect of what law enforcement officers do.
Right. It doesn't change your responsibility.
It does not change
It potentially
responsibilities
changes your
whatsoever.
practice. Right.
But the interpretation, there's different legal interpretations of how this applies to the county police, and certainly Marcus and his legal counsel would have to
Right.
address that, but it doesn't affect my responsibilities whatsoever.
No, sure.
It's just the new use of force standard that my deputies will have to certainly learn, be trained on, and apply to.
Are they also looking at, there's a new state law that Delegate Charkoudian sponsored and passed about mobile crisis units as well.
Right.
And are they looking at that as well? I was surprised that didn't come up in the previous
You know,
budget hearing for the
I
police.
work closely with Delegate Charkoudian on that particular bill.
Okay.
It's a good
I figured,
bill,
yeah.
but would not be applicable to this process.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
So we're going to come back to that. We're going to have to be respectful over time here. I know that we're running.
So that's not a budget issue. I mean, not per se. If you needed to add money, we could do that if it happens before you pass the FY23 budget, or we could bring it back as a supplemental appropriation. But I would try to get this item scheduled before the committee again with all the different stakeholders, and it would be helpful to have the county attorney here as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm recommending approval of the budget as submitted.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I just also would like to compliment Susan, and before Susan, Linda McMillan, for amazing work that they have done and keeping us kind of all together on things. So
we
Susan,
sincerely
thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. As you know, I like to joke. I don't joke about Susan. Susan and Linda McMillan.
Yes.
They do a fabulous job. Say that very publicly whenever I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to skip over Circuit Court. I don't see the judge here at this moment. We're going to call on our state's attorney, Mr. McCarthy, and we do have a hard stop today at noon, or 11:45, I believe. So we're going to have to move along as best we can. If not, we're going to have to go to full council, I guess, on some of these issues. But anyhow. So, Mr. McCarthy, welcome, and thank you for all that you do. Yeah, you got to turn on the mic.
Before he leaves, could I just say how much I feel indebted to Sheriff Darren Popkin? I will tell you, if you were going to define a public servant, you couldn't find a finer example of that. Whatever he's done for us as a community does not match. If you get to know him, and I know that you both know him, he's even a better person. And we are losing a lot with him leaving. I don't know how many times we've been out together in the community talking to people, trying to make them safe. When we go out, we do a lot of stuff not about locking people up. We do a lot of public education, particularly with our senior community, which you do as well. And I am personally going to miss him immensely as my partner in the courthouse. Look, we got Max Wee waiting in the wings, and he's going to, but I will tell you, he's just the best of the best. And I sit here, and we were talking as he talks about public issues. He is so well informed. He gets behind the issues, whether it's national legislation or otherwise, and he just knows it inside out. So it's a sad note to be here when he's the last time before us, but people in this county, they've done well with the multiple times they've elected this marvelous, marvelous man. Thank you, Sheriff.
We agree. And let me also say, we know his phone number. We'll be pestering him.
Oh, trust me. I'll be at his house.
And with that, Ms. Frog, we're going to, as I say, we're going to have to move along here. So with that, if you would please bring us through the packet.
Sure. For the state's attorney's recommended budget is about $21 million, and that's an increase of it's 9.24% from the approved budget from last year. One of the most significant changes here is the replacement of their legacy Justware case management system, and that'll be $1.1 million. The vendor for Justware has stopped supporting the product. This is becoming a recurring theme in public safety IT, unfortunately. Things are no longer being supported by the vendor. So since they have the inability to receive any maintenance or support, it could really significantly impact daily operations of the state's attorney's office, and it could negatively impact case prosecution. So the current system was developed to ensure speedy trial requirements that were met more efficiently by managing the total growing caseload. The system also helps manage discovery requirements, ensuring that the secure and timely delivery of discovery material for all district and circuit court cases is delivered to defense attorneys. They're indicating that the initial cost of the project is $1.1 million, and annual ongoing costs will be $450,000 to provide application and user hosting, software maintenance and support, cloud storage, and disaster recovery options. The new system needs to be compatible with the county's network and security measures, and it needs to be interfaced with the new Maryland electronic court system, the new case management system that has gone live across the entire state and finally now here in Montgomery County. They indicate that the system will be replaced beginning in FY23. It would be really helpful to understand the complexity of this because it links with different systems in the state's attorney's office, and just like MDEC was for the circuit court, the transfer has to be seamless. They do have speedy trial requirements to meet for criminal prosecution, and it would be helpful to understand a little bit of background about how they envision this transfer playing out over the next year.
Let me say to you, first of all, I want to thank the county, Mr. Hucker and Mr. Katz. At some point in time, I've been, you both represented me at different points in time when I've lived in the county. I lived in Huckerville and the mayor for life in Gaithersburg here.
And you made a wise choice to move that way. Yeah, go ahead.
But may I say, I want to thank the council because a couple, that's true, I used to say that too. A couple of years ago, you approved us hiring Dave Seaman, who's immediately to my right. And quite candidly, because of the challenges we had due to COVID, we operated pretty much remotely as any. We met these new challenges without someone who's overseeing our IT. And you gave me the money several years ago to do that. I was able to take Dave, who I think is the best IT director we could have found. He's leading us through the transition in terms of MDEC, which Susan already talked about, and he's also helping us transition just where our contract with them is up. And we are going to have a bridge contract with another county outside of the state of Maryland as we transition what we think is going to be Carpel. This is our lifeline. This is how we keep track of everything. And quite candidly, not only do we have the challenge, as Susan already pointed out, of MDEC. We are the first large jurisdiction in Maryland to transition to MDEC. We are going into a new case management system. And another thing that we're doing is that I have an agreement with a group called PPI, Prosecutorial Progressive Initiatives, and we are attempting to make sure that our case management system not only answers the questions we've traditionally asked it to answer, but there's a lot of people in this committee asking questions about race and ethnicity in the system, and we're trying to analyze every aspect of what we do, capture that within our system. So this is really a vital part of time for us. So if with your indulgence, I want to ask Dave to talk about the importance of the systems and what plan we have, and that's why I brought him here, and I think it'd make much more sense to let Dave take over for a few minutes.
Okay, please.
Thank you, John, and thank you, sirs. First off, my name is Dave Seaman. I am the IT director for the State Attorney's Office. So we are, as John mentioned, we are trying to first bridge a contract with a similar State Attorney's Office, similar size and scope. It's Pinal County, Arizona. They have been also a JustWare customer, which is a good thing, so they understand the conversion piece. Also, what helps us tremendously is that there are 9 other Maryland State's Attorney counties currently using the Carpel solution. And that solution is already interfacing with MDEC at multiple levels, as well as the J portal, the justice portal from the district and circuit courts. So this transition for us should be much, much easier than any other transition we've ever done. Also, in addition to, we are moving from a 12-year-old case management system, which is dated, needs to be replaced for numerous reasons. So we already have the experience in the office of how to use and navigate through case management systems. So we already started working on the bridge. Hopefully, our meeting with procurement today goes well, at least our first draft of it, and we'll be ready to submit or sign, hopefully, July 1st of 2022. And our estimated implementation is by July 1st of 2023.
2023.
Should be 1 year to implement this from start to
Okay, good. It's a good update, and hopefully, Ms. Frogger, do you have any other questions on it, or?
No, I'll just stay in touch with the office to see if they have any concerns as it moves through the process.
Good, okay. Please, if you'll.
The next item is adding 2 assistant state's attorneys for about $172,000. Those positions will be added to the circuit court prosecution, and Mr. McCarthy may want to elaborate a little bit more on what they'll be doing.
Yeah.
The key thing relative to these positions, we currently have these positions staffed, but they are salary-based. They have no benefits. They're not protected. Quite candidly, I've been making the argument for years, particularly as we go through COVID, that I think that people that work full-time for this community should have health benefits. And this is if there's one single aspect to this, is make sure that the men and women that work for me, who work for the people of this county, have health benefits. And this is the real change for them. They will get into whatever the pension plans are that are available to them right now. But for them, the most important aspect of it are the health benefits. And so they will be working for us, doing work throughout my office. One of the things that also helps us in terms of recruitment. Look, I think we are very lucky. Most offices around the state right now, I'm telling you, they are suffering the same kinds of issues that are happening to police and fire and sheriffs not trying to get enough candidates. That's not been our issue. But I will tell you, if you want the best, you've got to be able to answer to give a benefit package. And we have a tremendous, look, I think we have the best office in the state. I find tremendous men and women that work for me. I want to be able to continue to attract them. That will help us attract and retain the best of the best. And I think what I think is a fair consideration, giving these people health care.
Actually, I agree with you. In fact, I'm embarrassed that we don't. That's wrong. So, are you okay? Yeah, and we're okay with that.
So the next one is converting a part-time IT position to full-time for about $18,000. It's my understanding that this is really a technical adjustment to more appropriately reflect the type of work that the person is already doing.
Fine with me.
The next 2 items are a salary plan increase for assistant state's attorneys. For the eligible attorneys, their salaries are specified on a salary plan that was approved, I believe, in FY13, unless there's a newer version. And that's about $28,000. Then the state's attorney's compensation adjustment for about $2,600. That's based on the CPI, and that is specified in county code. And as far as COVID operations updates, COVID did create a lot of court closures and modified adjudication processes, and the state's attorney is currently working through a large backlog of cases. The office has experienced a significant reduction in operating expenses due to the lack of trials during COVID. However, as they get back up to more normal types of operations, they're experiencing just the opposite. They've had significant increases in trial preparation costs, such as transcripts, translations, and expert witness fees. These are items in a smaller budget like this. These are items can fluctuate pretty, they can be very variable, and the cost can be prohibitive, right? So it's something that I believe that the committee may want to keep an eye on. I can keep in contact with staff to look at these costs to see how much they really are going up over the next fiscal year.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and I do believe we later in the fall should have an update.
Okay. I'm recommending approval as submitted.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here and all that you do.
Thank you very much.
As you all have learned, take yes for an answer.
The less I say, the better I am.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We've all been there, John. That's for sure. Next, we're going to go to. It's my understanding that the judge is still going to be running a little late, so we're going to go to correction and rehabilitation, or invite them to please come back up. Hopefully you're doing okay, Angela. I see you.
Oh.
I didn't want to ask, but I am asking. Hopefully you're doing okay.
Had knee surgery about a month ago, so just got back part-time last week. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure you didn't need any new excitement in your life. But, and do you have any opening comments at all?
Sure. I'd just like to start by acknowledging that this week is National Correctional Officers and Employees Week, and we would like to acknowledge and recognize the women and men who serve in our facilities, understanding that this work is demanding, comes with risk, and our staff have done an amazing job. They're resilient, and they should be recognized for their contributions to public safety.
Thank you. And they should, and we applaud them, and we thank you for all that you do as well.
Thank you.
You do a wonderful job. You truly do. Your entire department. And unless you have anything, we're going to lead through the packet, please, Ms. Farrar.
Sure. For this year, for FY23, the recommended budget is $73.4 million. That's a 0.68% increase from last year's budget. Of particular interest, I think, to committee and council is the relaunching of the bakery program for about $153,000. This had been one of Corrections' signature inmate training programs, and it was abolished in the FY10 operating budget, and that was due to the severe fiscal constraints from the Great Recession. But it had provided participating inmates with a certified food services manager license from the county's Department of Health and Human Services, and it gave them practical food preparation skills that had resulted in nearly 100% job placement rate upon release. It also provided baked goods that were used as part of the larger inmate nutritional plan, supporting approximately 2,300 meals a day. And at that time, it provided job skills development for approximately 25 inmates a year. As I mentioned, it was eliminated due to fiscal capacity during the Great Recession. The new program will be supported by one program manager, one position, and funding for one part-time contractor. Ms. Talley might want to talk a little bit more about relaunching this program.
Very good. Please, Ms. Talley. We applaud it.
Well, thank you. Well, for us, anytime that you can provide a skill for those that you're working with, when you talk about the correction and rehabilitation part of it, a person leaving custody with a skill is more geared to be able to be competitive, to be marketable when they re-enter the work. We understand that this license will allow that person, successful completion of this license program will allow that person to work in any work establishment, whether that's hospitals, restaurants. And so we, of course, are looking at other ways, and we've really connected with our WorkSource partnership with the Executive Director, Mr. Featherstone, and trying to be able to continue to look at other ways that we can build skills for people upon departure from our facilities. We want people to be able to come back into the community and be competitive, to be geared with as much information and resources and skills as they can. This is the first step in that. We'll have to look at it and see what we can do. I will be honest with you, COVID has really hampered our programs and how much we can bring people together, because you have to worry about social distancing. But this is something that we can look at for the latter part of the fiscal year to be able to have it up and operational again and see whether we can expand it, whether we can look at other avenues of training programs for the individuals that we serve.
Well, and first of all, I applaud it, and I'm, way back when I've eaten their baked goods, and
Sure.
They're very, very good. You can look at me and tell that they were very, very good. But if someone is in your facility, and how long does the certification take?
I believe it was a 3-month program previously. We would have to work with Health and Human Services and the oversight of that licensure to see whether that is still a reasonable time frame based on, as I said, do we have to limit the participants with social distancing? We are hoping to be out of all of this madness eventually. But we'll have to work with our outside collaborators, our educators who are performing the educational piece of it with Montgomery College to see how long it will take.
Well, if someone is not going to be incarcerated for the entire 3 months, what happens if they've been in 2 months and then are released. What happens with that certification?
And that's some of the challenges and barriers that we need to be able to flush out through those conversations and dialogue, because that is a real reality when you're talking about a population sometimes where things come up and a person is released overnight. And that has always been a hindrance sometimes to our programs about we can't 100% guarantee if someone's going to be here for the entire length of a program. And so that will be one of the challenges that we will have to be able to plan for.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean, I've been to graduations for GED and whatnot, and the speaker has said, we want no U-turns. We don't want anybody coming
Correct.
back. And,
Yes.
and this is an additional way for us to help the people who've gotten themselves in a terrible situation, and, you know, that they should get themselves back, and their families would be able to be helpful to them as well. So I applaud it. I think that's very necessary, and it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I did have one question related
Sure.
to that, if it's okay. When this program was in place before, it allowed prisoners to get diminution credits, and it would reduce their length of stay, their average length of stay. Does that still apply? If
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would still apply. You know, individuals are earning so much more, significantly more, when you talk about good conduct time ever since 2017 with the Justice Reinvestment. Individuals can, with certain convictions and charges, can earn up to 10 days of good conduct time, 5 days for program, 5 days for working. And so a person out of a 30-day period can earn up to 20 days off your sentence in any given month.
And the idea is that, and especially in Clarksburg, they can only be there 18 months, I guess, total.
Yes.
And they're coming back to the streets of Montgomery County, and when they come back, we want them to be so much better off than they were when they left.
Right.
So, you know, that's exactly what we're dealing with. Any other questions on that one, Ms. Roy? Anything else? Thank you. We appreciate everything you do, and you do a wonderful job. You sincerely do. While you're here, so.
Well, I've got more items in
okay,
the budget.
go ahead.
We were just done with the bakery one, that's all.
Okay. You're going to be okay anyhow at the end of this, Angela. Go ahead.
The next item is PLAR for needed non-capital facility and equipment repair and replacement. That's planned life cycle asset replacement. The acronym stands for. This item is providing for annual allocations of support needed for facility asset repair and replacement given the age of DOCR's facilities. There's significant wear and tear experience due to the round-the-clock operations. Current equipment replacement needs include awnings, hospital beds, and kitchen utilities and grinder equipment to prevent sewer clogging.
Okay.
The next item is adding a new correctional officer to deal with contraband security for about $84,000. That position will be assigned up at Clarksburg where mail is delivered. The new correctional officer will assist with screening, logging, and delivering all mail. The position will also copy mail, keep a database up to date, and respond to inmate grievances related to mail. They're also adding another correctional officer for enhanced medical security post, and that's approximately $79,000. This position will support a medical security post. I've got a huge typo there, of 2 correctional officers on day shift, 1 correctional officer on evening shift, and 1 correctional officer on midnight shift. They've been paying for a correctional officer on the evening shift with overtime pay since the position is unbudgeted. There is a need still to add a second correctional officer to the evening and midnight shifts to address daily operations, security needs, and line of sight. The committee may wish to ask whether or not adding 1 CO is sufficient given their stated need for additional support on both the evening and midnight shifts, and that the evening CO work is provided with overtime backfill. Would it be more appropriate to operationally, instead of just adding 1, to add 2 at this point?
If you could find somebody to do the work, would that make sense?
Sure. Well, it would eliminate the overtime. You know, the medical unit is a very high-functioning, busy unit. We bring a lot of treatment services and treatment providers to reduce the number of transports that our sheriffs have to take. So we have a number of services that are on site, such as dialysis and radiology, dental, optometry, physical therapy. And they extend beyond the normal day hours that we think in our mind. Some of us think it's 9 to 5:30. Our day shifts run a little different. And so they do overlap into the second shift, which is the evening. And so there is a lot of activity that's going on in medical, a lot of observation that is needed. These are our high acuity cases for medical and our CIU overflow. And so having 2 officers to support operations is something that we will continue to apply overtime to in order to make those operations work
And
for us.
it makes sense for safety and every other reason, so I'm fine with that. If we, yes, please.
Okay. So that wraps up the operating budget
Okay.
for corrections. We still have the one outstanding item of the criminal justice complex. The Public Safety Committee had reviewed corrections' entire recommended CIP and had voted 3-0 to approve all projects other than this criminal justice complex. Voting was deferred to a later date so that the committee could get additional information on the bus depot and the restoration center projects. It's my understanding that that has occurred and that our HHS committee has voted to recommend approval of the restoration center at that site, and that will go to full council. And the bus depot item was heard by full council, and council staff in that situation is still developing some language to propose to the council as they move forward. So what's left is the criminal justice complex for $79 million. In the last approved CIP, the criminal justice complex had included space for the deflection and diversion as an alternative to arrest. And as you know now, that piece of that function has now been split off to the restoration center. So now all we're talking about with the criminal justice complex is the very traditional corrections piece. There's the largest piece here is the central booking facility, central intake. They also have clinical assessments that are performed on inmate newly arrived defendants. You have you have police warrants and fugitive section there. The court commissioners are also there. Public defenders are also there. The new project cost is $79 million, as I stated before. The county is assuming 50% will be funded by the matching state aid. Design is programmed to begin in the fall of 2023, and construction is expected to begin spring of 2026. So I know that, Mr. Chair, you had some questions about design of this. That's not going to start until the fall of 2023 at this point. So council staff's recommending approval of this to move to full council.
And I appreciate that. Let me say very, very clearly, for the entire, we talk about the complex itself. I am certainly in favor of the concept, the complex itself in concept. Take out the bus depot. I have real issues with that, but what's before us now? But we're talking about building new buildings. I mean, it's my understanding, and I see Mr. Sant is here. Please come down. This is in the city of Rockville, and it's going to go before their historical designation group by whatever right name. I'm sure I just messed that up.
Historic District Commission.
The Historic District Commission in July, is that?
Again, good morning, Greg
Good
Austin,
morning.
Department of General Services. Just to clarify, the only item in front of the HDC, the Rockville City HDC, is a demolition application that we have to remove some of the residential buildings at the existing MCDC facility, the detention center. These are the residential facilities that haven't been in use for many, many years, basically since we built the Clarksburg facility, and really cost the county quite a bit to keep them up and running, heating them, cooling vacant buildings, and of course they're deteriorating. So we want to remove some of those buildings as a stopgap measure before the CJC complex moves forward on the timing that Susan has indicated. So this is really just a separate and apart, and that's the only application in front of the HDC right now. Now, of course, to your point, a future restoration center, a future CJC, and anything else that happens there at the Seven Locks Depot site, the current site, would need to go back to the HDC, would require all of the entitlements through the city of Rockville, et cetera.
Well, and I appreciate that update. But as I am saying that, and obviously the building needs to be stabilized, and we need to do all the right things for that. But the fact that we're building new buildings, the question becomes whether or not, if the county didn't own that 40 acres or whatever that acreage is and would sell it, whether or not we would say this is the place for these types of facilities. And I'm certainly in favor of these types of facilities. I have real concern because of the closeness to residential homes about it being there. But having said that, we get in there in the position of the chicken and the egg. And what comes first? We have to come up with some funding in order to figure out what we're going to do whether people agree with me or disagree with me. And so we need to do that, and we need to do it, as quickly and as efficiently as we can. But I do believe we need to have the larger discussion for the entire, because we talk about the complex, for the entire complex, not just the individual buildings. So, and part of that discussion, and Mr. Sonton and others have heard me say this before, that I believe we need to have a real involvement from the community. It's in the city of Rockville, they need to be at the table. It's in a neighborhood, they need to be at the table. The professionals who do this work need to be at the table. There's information out there, there's misinformation out there, and misinformation can lead to much more fear than might be fair. Transportation security has become an issue, and how isolated this could be from, for the bus service, and if someone is going to these various facilities. I don't need to go on and on, but I do need to say that I believe that this should go to full council, but I do think that we need to have those discussions before we do anything else, except for the stabilization of the actual facility. I don't know where you are on that, but well said. Okay, I got a well said. I'm leaving.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So how about, I would recommend, if you wanted to do that, recommending approval of the project now to go to full council, but since design doesn't even start until the fall of 2023, we could come back with the appropriate stakeholders in the fall and really get into a deep dive of what this is going to look like.
Sounds good
Yeah,
to me. Go ahead,
this is Rachel
please.
Silverman from OMB. I did just want to say that we are working very diligently to go through the state application process, which requires 2 years of lead time. We're midway through that process, and having an approved project in the county's CIP is really important to demonstrating our commitment to moving forward with replacing the facility for the state funding effort.
Is that site specific for that funding? I see Mary Beck behind you shaking her head. Yes.
Yeah.
You can't see her, but I can.
I mean, we do need to indicate to the state in the application process where, there is quite a bit of information around site development and things like that, which are dependent on the site.
Well, there again, I think we need to have parallel efforts, but I'm very concerned about it. If we didn't own that, if we, the county, didn't own that 40 acres, I don't believe anybody would say that's the best spot for this. So that's my concern. So, but anyhow, I think, Ms. Frog, I think you have a good path forward as far as, so that we can get moving on this, because we need to be doing something.
Yes.
And as I say, I'm in favor of the concepts, and I'm in favor of what needs to be done. I just think that's not the spot to do it. So anyway. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So knowing that funding is site-specific, what are our D17 delegation and our OIR saying about the potential availability of state funds for other sites?
I don't know that we've had conversations around other sites with them. I mean, I can say that the application process that I'm talking about is kind of the traditional local jail matching project, and we did work with OIR this year to seek state funding outside of that grant application, and that wasn't successful this year. But we did, you start the conversation, then you come back next year, and hopefully you have some more traction. But to date, to my knowledge, all the conversations have been around the 7 Locks site.
That site, right.
Exactly.
I mean, I would just say, especially given a 2-year timeline, it would be that would be a good conversation to initiate as quickly as possible, given the feeling of the local council member, and I bet his views prevail with the full council.
And I would just add that I guess the site location was designated because all of the services that are going to be in the new CJC are currently there now at MCDC. Our central processing unit, a couple blocks up, central processing, the police, the warrants, the commissioners, the, pretrial services, the HHS staff, everyone is on site completing those functions now, whether they're, in this building that's falling on top of their heads, but they're all on site now. And so I'm assuming that weighed into that decision to be able to maintain the centrality of Rockville when we talk about these processes work well now, and they've worked well for so many years with the police. Everyone else is being this central location in Rockville. And so maybe that is another factor. That the state, the services are still there. The new component, yes, is the restoration center, but all the other functions would remain the same.
Well, and that's why I think we need to have the
Sure.
good, open, transparent discussions with everybody.
Yes, and we're
figure
available
this
to do
out.
that. We're available to do that. We can recognize that anytime there's a new facility or any building that's erected that individuals want to be heard, they want to understand it, and we're more than happy to be a participant in those conversations.
And the fact that it's in the city of Rockville, obviously, they need to be sitting at the table
Sure.
with us as well.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm fine to go to full council at this point, but
So recommending approval of this project to move to full council with the understanding that we will dive into much deeper detail at a later date, probably early fall, so that all the stakeholders can be there. It's not something, there's too much information here to really discuss in detail as part of the budget process. You won't be able to get into all the detail at council.
Well, and I understand that.
Okay.
My concern, I'm somebody that believes money has to be there
Right.
in order to solve these issues. So the money has to be there.
Right.
My
Okay.
concern is the site specific. So,
Okay.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Are you okay with that? Thank you. Anything else on?
That's it. I'm recommending approval as submitted.
Very good. Thank you all for everything you do. It's my understanding that Judge, you got an update on that?
No, I've got one other item. The prisoner medical services, it'll only take 20 seconds, but before circuit court.
Well, that's fine. I was just going to say it's my understanding that Judge Bonifant is going to be here at 11. So if this only takes 20 seconds, we might have to take a recess for
Right.
Thank
a few
you.
minutes. Please.
Thank you.
Wait, this is for the prisoner.
Right.
Yeah.
This
you're gonna
is
stay.
actually under the purview of the police
Aren't-
department.
it's police, not you.
Yeah, it's police. Nope.
I noticed, Angela, you getting out of there as quickly as you could. Even with that crutch, you were moving pretty good.
No.
Thank you all.
Yes, it inadvertently got scheduled today instead of when we held the police department. But Mr. Morris is here from OMB, and he does all the work on this anyway. So this is just basically a placeholder, a non-departmental account placeholder, and this year it has $20,000 in it. It provides reimbursements for medical costs that are incurred by persons under arrest, but they're not yet under the custody of the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. As I stated, police administers the NDA, and the spending history is on the chart on the front. Nobody can really project how much it's going to be cost. For several years, it's been zero. 1 year, it was as high as $27,000. The department has to pay for it no matter what. Again, it's a placeholder, and I am recommending approval as submitted.
Okay, sounds fine to me. Did you have anything to add? Might be the best speech you ever got. Right here.
That pretty much sums it up.
All right, for the 20 seconds, we agree. We're good with that.
Okay, so did you want to briefly recess until?
We are going to recess until Judge Bonifant gets here.
Okay, great.
And then we will call it back immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Let me make a phone call.
Sure. Good morning again. We go live in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much. We welcome back to the Public Safety Committee meeting. We're going to go to the second item on the agenda, though it's been skipped over here. For Circuit Court, we would like to welcome Judge James Conopin to be here with us, and I guess you're Ms. Hawkins and Darrell Harrington from the Office of Management and Budget. Your Honor, did you have any opening comments?
No, sir. Thank you for having us today. Good to see you, Councilman Katz, Councilman Hubbard. It's been a while since I've seen you all in person.
Yeah, true. It's always good that when we don't see judges. We're okay over there. Anyhow, Susan, you want to lead us through this back?
Sure. Good morning again. This is for the Circuit Court, and the County Executive has recommended total expenditures of about $16.5 million for FY23. That's a 4.2% increase over the last year's approved budget. As you know, as we talked about with the other agencies and departments that you had here today, we are all transitioning out of COVID. It had significant impacts on Circuit Court operations. Things were closed for a while, and then they went to virtual hearings. They have a lot of, statutory obligations as far as how speedy they need to do trials, criminal trials, and those types of things. So there's been a prioritization of different types of cases within the Circuit Court to meet those needs. They still do have case backlogs. They are moving through those. They have a bunch of detailed charts on circles 11 through 18 that are showing their differences in filings for FY21, which was the last fiscal year impacted before COVID, or the fiscal year most impacted by COVID, I'm sorry. Even though cases dropped a little bit, they're increasing again, and they were more slow ramping up adjudication for those. The items that have been added to the budget are listed on page 3. The first one is just dealing with a fund shift from ARPA grant funds to the general fund for $291,000 in 4 full-time equivalent positions. In FY22, the court was able to access all those $300,000 in ARPA funding, which funded 5 positions, which are 4 FTEs that conducted remote hearing work. And those included a remote scheduling supervisor, 2 scheduling specialists, and 2 remote proceeding facilitators. It might be helpful to understand how the remote hearings are going at this point. And are these positions needed permanently moving past? Do they envision having certain hearings permanently virtually? And I just want to make sure that you do hit the button on the microphone before speaking. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Your Honor, did you want to comment on that?
That had to do it? Yes. Thank you. All right. Councilman Katz, I am so proud of our court, and I hope the citizens of Montgomery County are as well. What we have been able to achieve over the last year is remarkable, in my opinion. We have time standards that the judiciary imposes on us, and they were relaxed during COVID, and they're back in place. But when you look at the number of cases that have been filed and the number of cases that we have been able to complete, we have been, the ratio is over 100%. Last year we had a 3-headed monster at the courthouse. One is COVID. We've all been dealing with that. The second is we've been down 4 judges. We're supposed to have 24 judges, circuit court judges, and I'm just speaking to the circuit court at this time. And we had 20. Now, they've been appointed, and they've gone through their orientation. They're up and running, and we're happy to have them, too. So we're back up and running. So that has been taken care of. The other is the implementation of MDEC, which is the electronic filing system. And that came down from the judiciary. And any organization that's been involved with going paperless knows you slow down for a while. Mm-hmm. In addition to going paperless, one of the problems that I've been facing is that we had a system in place. We called it HP, and it was outdated. And so it was time for us to switch. HP was fabulous. We had individuals working at the courthouse who could write the code, and we needed something, they got it done like that. We're now switching over to where we have to do the processes that MDEC is the system. And that calls for us to have more people, and we need more people. Also, if there are any benefits to COVID, we've learned that many of our hearings we can continue to do remotely, and we plan to do that because it saves time, it saves money. We have to keep cases organized. We have scheduling. There it is, right back.
Yeah.
So the benefits of having these virtual hearings at scheduling conferences, attorneys don't have to charge as much because they're not on the road coming to the courthouse. People don't have to take time off from work. They can continue at work, ask their supervisor for 15 minutes and step aside. So there are all these benefits. Well, it's taken a lot of coordination at the courthouse where we have this team now that comes up with the email addresses or telephone numbers. And we had to really, Ms. Hawkins needs to be complimented. She has stepped in as the acting court administrator now and has really helped a great deal. In all disclosure, she was my assistant when I was a regular judge too and did a great job there as well. But getting these processes in place so that everybody could go to this team to say, I need to get in touch with somebody, that's where it was. People are supposed to provide this information and add it to their filings, but they don't. They're humans, so we need these people here. So I hope you take that into consideration. But I also want to point out that as of today, we have over 400 more open criminal matters than we did at the beginning of the pandemic. We have more than 450 more custody matters than we did at the beginning of the pandemic. And that's what I'm focusing my time on and encouraging my judges to address. And it takes a lot of moving around cases at the last minute. And we've come up with strategies where we have these big spreadsheets now. We call them charts. And anytime anybody gets information about a particular case, they can put it into that chart. And then so that when a case goes from Judge A to Judge B at the last minute, Judge B can pick up and have at least that information of what's going on. But that takes people. It takes time. But I'm not going to single out other jurisdictions, but if you go to the state's website, judiciary's website, to look at how we're doing, we're knocking it out of the park. We've done, since March 7th when we reopened, we have now done close to 40 jury trials. And we have a number we call a jury utilization rate, which is important. What it means is if you're summoned to come to the court, what are the number of people who just sit in the jury assembly room and wait and never go up to a courtroom to be voir for a jury? Where our rate is 70% of the people who are summoned to come to court actually go up to a courtroom and are voir to determine whether they should be selected. Now, I have one judge who thinks that's a terrible rate, we should do better. I would love to do better. But people reach settlements, the plea agreements are reached at the last minute. But we work very hard at making sure that utilization rate is high. Our jury commissioner, Vinnie Weaver, does a terrific job. He tells me in talking to other jurisdictions around the state, we're doing much better than them. I'm going to talk up my court anytime I can, and I'm going to talk up Montgomery County anytime I can.
You should be very proud, and we're very proud of it as well. I mean, candidly, it's amazing what people can take for granted. Yeah. When things are running smoothly, it's all done by magic. Everything is, we take it for granted, and it shouldn't. And of course, that's one thing that COVID did do for all of us is we had to start realizing you shouldn't take it for granted. Right. Shouldn't take it for granted that everybody has food to eat. Shouldn't take it for granted everybody has a place to sleep, and you shouldn't take it for granted that all the judicial and every other system runs smoothly. But we do appreciate it, and we thank you, Ms. Hawkins, for your help as well. So with that, Ms. Frog, are you anything else that we're going to look at? Sure.
I've got a couple more items for you. The next one is replacing or upgrading courtroom AV equipment for about $150,000. The South Tower, the Circuit Court opened the South Tower Annex in April 2014, and it has 10 courtrooms, which include 6 jury and 4 non-jury courtrooms and 8 family hearing rooms. They're advising that all of these rooms contain complex multi-vendor audiovisual infrastructure that was state-of-the-art back during when the project was in the design phase. But there were a lot of building delays for that, construction delays, and now the building has been occupied for 8 years, and those components have reached their end of life and are no longer supported by their vendors. While the components continue to function daily, they do need an ongoing solution for these component level repairs, and they would like ideally to have one vendor provide all these needs and support all of the operations. Failure to maintain ideally and replace the AV equipment could result in courtroom closures, which could add additional case delays. And as I stated before, they prefer one manufacturer solution for this. And the question I had, which I didn't get a chance to ask, is if they're working with our TEBS department to look toward these AV solutions. Yes. Okay.
Can I tell you what we're talking about with that?
Go ahead, please.
Because I've had experience.
Your Honor, has anybody ever told you, no, you can't speak? Go right ahead, please.
Part of that, of this upgrade is having headsets, so that during a trial, and this was extremely important during COVID, instead of having people come to the bench, we're all getting within 6 feet, we didn't want that, we used these headsets so that if an attorney made an objection to a question that was asked, they could make sure that they didn't have to approach. We had our headsets on, we could hear the objection, I was able to hear the opposition and rule. The benefit going forward is that it saves time. Every time you have a jury trial and there's an objection, you have to turn on the husher so the jury can't hear. You got to keep the attorneys' voices down as they come up to the bench. First, they need to come up to the bench. And it may sound like we're saving 1 minute or 2 minutes here, but through the course of the trial, you may save an hour or an hour and a half. And again, you got jurors who are sitting around wondering what they're saying. I also found that attorneys were able to turn their backs from the jury so that the jury really couldn't hear what they were saying. It worked beautifully. So that's part of why we want the upgrade and more.
Well, and we talked about it just before. I guess it was under circuit court, or no, it was whatever. It was today. I don't remember what topic about the Wi-Fi in the South.
Right, that was for the sheriff, and they have a terrace level office, and they've never had Wi-Fi. So.
And we said the same thing. That's an embarrassment, really. Yeah. So we need to correct that.
Right.
The next item is for ransomware data protection for about $102,000. They currently use VMware hosted Windows servers for file data and application servers. Since ransomware attacks are very high profile and newsworthy today, the court data and continuity of operations are critical for protection, and they've identified a Dell CyberSense data protection solution as a possible defense to those types of threats. That solution creates constant backups of data which can't be accessed or compromised through any network connection. They're requesting the funding to implement the solution, and it covers licensing, installation, and hardware.
Okay. Good.
And the next one was just a Maryland Electronic Court update, which we've been talking about, the statewide case management system. And Montgomery County was the largest jurisdiction to connect to the MDEC, and they continue to struggle with some case management issues, including automated scheduling capacity, which is apparently limited, and it makes it more difficult to rotate judicial calendars every 12 months. Daily schedules can only be viewed by 5 judicial officers at a time, but the court has 24 judges. And the court therefore has to produce queries and ancillary reports to help schedule judicial resources and manage the dockets. They indicate that they're looking at a need for at least 3 more MDEC specialist positions over the next 2 years. So it would be helpful to understand what kinds of concerns and problems that they're running into with that right now.
The one that's foremost on my mind is our family magistrates do the scheduling for family cases. And that is a somewhat complicated process because the court now offers so many good services to families that are wonderful. But their ability to see everything that they can schedule is limited under MDEC. And this is an example of where our old HP system was actually better. It was. But this is what we have to deal with now. So we need these additional personnel to help the magistrates with the scheduling. And scheduling is so important because it is important for parents to feel empowered, to feel like they have a say in the case. And we have, our family division at the courthouse is directed towards that, to really try to get what is the real problem here. Do we need an evaluation when circumstances? Yes. And the court has, how many, 5 court evaluators?
No, we have 8.
8, wow. So, and that's wonderful. To have that, instead of having parents coming in to go to a trial and pull out every bad thing they can think about the other parent, it's here to be constructive and have them work towards a plan. Because the studies, and I've been doing this a long time, all the studies show that if parents reach an agreement, the benefit to the child is better, and also the fact that they are more inclined to follow the agreement that they come up with that is incorporated into a court order, as opposed to a judge telling them, here's how it's going to be, this is an order. So that's what we're talking about here. It really will help our family division do even a better job. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Susan?
That's all I had. I was recommending approval as submitted, but that the committee may wish to follow up on this issue in the fall.
And I think we will. We'll I guess in the fall, once we can finally get past budgets. But, the only good thing about budgets is you have to be done by July 1. So we'll have some moments thereafter. But we do need to have these continuing conversations, and we need to make certain that you can run as efficiently as you possibly can.
I certainly
know
do.
there's days that
I certainly do
tough to
appreciate the opportunity to come over and see you all. It's good to see
absolutely.
you in person.
Good to see you.
All right.
Anything else? So
That's
we're
all.
good as it. We will submit that to full council.
Yes,
Anything
we have a
else?
very full fall schedule coming up.
Yes, we do. We needed something to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good seeing you. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned. Correct, Ms. Frog? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.